You play the clip right here.
Oh, you want the clip?
And yeah, and then we'll kind of get into this tradition that we have.
Your fifth beer slang term is porron. What is a porron?
And that's the clip. That's it right there. But what is a porron? And if you see right here on our table, we have a porron. And it became a significant tradition. It was one of these things that I found, and now we passed the porron. So tonight, this is filled with Wheat Don't Tell Me beer. It's basically a Spanish drinking vessel that we've now modified to be able to include just regular good old drinking beer. Your goal is not to touch your lips to the spout.
And therefore not pass the coronavirus.
We don't want the corona. We don't put corona in it.
No, never.
This is not how it's spread.
So I was introduced to this really scary thing when I came to visit on one of these nights for the show, and Tim just runs over and starts dumping it all over my face. What the hell is this thing?
So we'll pass the Perone around. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of the spill. It's just part of the way things go. Episode 3, we had our special guest was Wendy Schuler, who is the EW's women's basketball coach. We had our panel was made up of Prince from Black Label, Tim, who is now a steady regular on the show and kind of somebody who we can't let go because we learn of his amazing humor and wisdom. Tim has kind of a indispensable humor for this show. And so following is a segment I'm calling Tim Unleashed.
5 seconds. I think that my wife said that to me on my wedding night. Is that true?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
That's the game.
The game is called Bluff the Drinker.
Julie, as your bartender, have I ever lied to you?
Yes.
Brewers never lie. I've actually been to Iowa, technically. I swam from Galena, Illinois to Dubuque, Iowa. Did you know my friend from Nantucket?
Yeah, I might have met him once.
We have Tim with 1.3333 repeating.
Okay.
That's my GPA, too, from college.
I mean, I don't quite understand why polygamy is illegal in North Carolina. I think if anybody wants to go through the aggravation, and joy of having more than one wife, I think they should be free to do so. Chris, I have a complaint.
Yes.
I'm a Boston Irishman, and that would have been a much easier accent for me to learn than Australian.
Right.
So,
Good eye, Tim.
I play this in protest.
Well, we discussed that earlier, but we love to see you struggle.
And they'll be like, here's Dave in Bunghole.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
So when I got that Untapped comment the other day, and it said that beer tastes like shit.
Right.
Is it possible they just meant it was a little yeasty?
Yes.
Exactly. Chris, I'm going to say it's what happens before the blue whale farts. You know, Chris, Mountain Lakes is also, we're a non-profit.
Are you?
Oh, did you?
What?
Wait.
Tim, there's a difference. Just because we don't make a profit yet doesn't mean we're a non-profit.
Did you say non-profit or no profit?
I told you there was no profit
Oh,
yet.
sorry. I take that back. We're no profit.
A little slow.
I'm going to say white whale is, a woman with really big boobs drinking a beer.
All we get is shit with like maple in it, or like blueberries, or here's a Hefeweizen mixed with a stout that we call whatever the fuck we call it. And where's my milk stout? And we're like, it's not here, Chris. He starts screaming.
I do.
Could you say there's Gemütlichkeit in my pants? Would that be a good use of the term?
So there you go. A little round of applause for Tim Helton, whose humor is pretty amazing and well-timed, I must say. Well, that wraps up the first part of our show. We'll now take a break and be back in a few with Mike Shannon from Ales for ALS and a game we call Not My Beer.
Welcome back to the Brewhouse stage at Mountain Lakes Brewing Company in downtown Spokane, Washington. This is Wheat Don't Tell Me, the MLB Beer Quiz Show. It's time for a game we call Not My Beer with your host, Chris Sindrick.
And now, the game where we ask important people who drink beer questions about beer that their local craft brewer may not even know, just to win an audience member some free beer. It's called Not My Beer. Mike Shannon has been a Spokane boy since the age of 5. He graduated from Meade High School and then went on to attend and graduate from Western Washington University. In 2006, Mike worked for as the development director for the ALS Therapy Development Institute in California. And in 2013, he married his wife, Jan, at Bellwether Brewing Company in Yakima, Washington. Mike moved back to Spokane in 2014, where he spent some time managing the Spokane Civic Theater. In 2019, Mike became the project manager for ALS for ALS. Since 2013, the ALS for ALS program has raised over $2,500,000 for ALS research at the ALS Therapy Development Institute and has united brewers from all over the U.S., as well as the Netherlands and Japan. Mike is also an avid surfer and thought his days of surfing were over until we talked about river surfing, which we all know now is true and exists. And Mike and I will be soon surfing river waves in Spokane and Bend whenever we can.
True like Bigfoot.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's Not My Beer guest, ALS for ALS Project Manager, Mike Shannon. Well, welcome, Mike. It's great to have you on the show. A couple places to start, though. I think the best thing might be to just tell us a little bit about ALS and the work done by the ALS Therapy Development Institute.
So I hope my mic's on. The ALS Therapy Development Institute is an institute that's been around for about 23 years. It's created by a family that their brother developed ALS, and they decided they were going to create their own research institute. So my friend Sean Scott was a friend of the guy that started it and just said, I'm going to jump in because my family is affected by ALS. So Sean drugged me into the thing, and as the time I got drugged in, my cousin had ALS, was from Spokane, Jenny Hoff, and it was pretty much a perfect match in terms of my abilities and my ability to help them raise money and get involved and try to create an opportunity. Now, along the way, I met a family from Yakima who grow hops, and they grow thousands of acres of hops, Loftus Ranches. And they, too, wanted to get involved, and so they decided that they wanted to jump into the game. And they are now the family that owns Bellwether Brewing Company, who are affected by the disease. And they decided that they wanted to contribute back and create opportunities for drugs and research for the disease so that we could probably solve this problem. My part to play... I left, I came back, and now I'm back involved, is to now build this program to about maybe 300 brewers nationally. And I will say that we have about 10 brewers from Spokane. We represent 3% of the entire... Let's go. Where's your sign? Come on, man. And all the people that are involved have been tremendously interested, just jumping right in, no questions asked. And so to date, going into 2020, we have raised, as you said, $2.5 million. This year alone, though, because we are creating 5 Brewfests around the country, we probably will raise about $800,000 for the program.
Nice. Wow. Very good. In this next year.
In 2020.
2020. Yep. That's very good. So then we have the ALS Therapy Development Institute, which is, from my understanding, the research institute. The money goes towards that. When you're buying a pint of beer, the $1 goes to contribute to that research institution. That's correct?
That is correct.
All right.
So if you are ever in the Boston area or from Portland, Maine, then you may want to go to Boston. I'm pointing at a gentleman here. I recognize his accent, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm from Portland, Maine," I didn't do it very well. But he, like others, you're welcome to. The Institute is an institute started by families, and it is a nonprofit. I heard you guys bagging on nonprofits earlier, but
No, we weren't bagging on it. We were just saying that the great thing about them is that all that money goes to something, and ours just disappears.
Yeah.
Well, that's correct. But if you started a nonprofit, you could write that off.
Oh.
Sorry, just a suggestion.
It got me one step closer to that motorcycle.
So, anyway, the ALS Therapy and Development Institute was the institute created by the Haywood family. My friend Sean Scott, Augie Nieto, who created Life Fitness. Any of you guys go to a gym and jump on a treadmill or a bike?
I did that once.
Yeah, that's
I never will
that's
again.
Augie Nieto, who has ALS. And so the ALS Therapy and Development Institute, sorry, that beer made me burp. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
It is an institute that has, over the course of time, raised, I think, $10 million a year for the last 23 years. And, drug development in the United States of America is pretty complex. Now, last night we saw it simplified by someone, but I won't talk about who that is. But the reality is that when you have a drug in a platform of development, it takes 12 to 13 years to develop that drug. It takes probably $1.3 billion. So TDI is 23 years in. They've created 2 drugs that are in trial for ALS, and that's probably on the same mark as industry, pharma, and yet at the same time, we've done it with less money and maybe twice the time frame, but we've got 2 drugs.
Right. Good. It's awesome. So then we have the ales for ALS, which basically developed from this family that has been stricken with ALS, right? A significant
That's correct,
number of
yes.
people.
They have familial ALS, which represents about 20% of all cases of ALS.
Okay. And if let's say I'm a brewery and I want to become involved in ales for ALS, how does that process happen? Like if I'm Mountain Lakes, which I know has been involved, or Bellwether or Grain Shed, what's the process to be a part of this program?
So you guys are all brewers, and you probably survive on networking. You know everybody in Spokane. The whole idea behind the program is the Smith family, Bellbreaker, Loftus Ranches, Carpenter Ranchers is also participating, Yakima Chief. They basically put out the bat signal to say, if you want to get the program, just let us know and we'll get you involved. I personally have done the same thing with brewers around the country, and they jump in. They say, I'm going to brew a 5-barrel batch. I'm going to brew a 20-barrel batch. Dave Musser, I think he said that. Just kidding.
It's the best beer we've ever made. Next year we are going big with this thing.
Yeah.
And
tastes good and feels good.
It's wonderful. All of the beers I've tasted are just fantastic. And so they then turn around and say, I want in. They get in. We recruit. This is around the country. This is Maine. This is North Carolina, Texas, California. We have 55 brewers in California. We have 26 brewers in Washington State in the program. We have 300 nationally. Washington State has the second most brewers. And because there are 10 brewers in Spokane, Washington has 26 brewers. So
wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Seattle's kind of lagging behind them next year.
Good.
And by the way, I just want to make a shout out to the Smith family, Mike and Cheryl Smith, Patrick, who runs the hop farm, Kevin, who runs the brewery with Megan Quinn, and Kevin Quinn, who came from Coeur d'Alene. That's the family. They run the whole thing, and Bellbreaker is way behind all of this. So
that's great. So you create a unique hop blend for the participating breweries that are in the fundraising program. Can you tell us a little bit about that blend and how it comes to be? And because I know that when a brewery says they're going to be involved in this, the main ingredient they get is a special hop blend that's created to be able to enter into the beer. So all the beers have this unique connectedness through this hops.
Well, Dave and Matt and all the guys that are involved. By the way, 60% of the brewers in America are named Dave and Matt. Just want to let you know.
True.
It is true.
They wouldn't let us. TTB, originally Tim wanted to do this alone, and the TTB denied his application. They said, do you know a Matt or a Dave? And I live down the street, so.
The fact that your name is Chris, You're on the media side, and then Dave and Matt are on the